Well, good morning, magandang umaga, and welcome to today's episode of My PI Dream. Today, we're going to go into the actual process of putting down some natural stone walking path in the backyard. I know you saw some of the other stones that we put down in here earlier, and we fell short of our full project, so I had to order some more, and that's what we're going to be doing today. Now, there is a right way and there's a wrong way of putting down stones, because a lot of people think all you have to do is either just set your stone right on top of your grass or your dirt, or dig a hole and just drop it right in and it's all okay. But that is not the correct way to do it, and I'll talk a little bit about that in just a moment. So let's go ahead and get today's video started. Now, without further delay, let's get today's episode underway. Well, in an effort to keep today's video as brief as possible, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and lay out one of the stones right here at the junction point where we're going to meet the already existing stones and the new stones we're going to put down. And we'll just focus on one stone, and I'll talk about some of the importance of doing some preparation before you complete all of your stonework for your walking path. It's really important, and it's going to apply to whether you're using stones or if you're doing pavers, anything. Even if you were to putting something down permanent like concrete, there's still some preparations you need up underneath your concrete, and we're going to talk about that in just a moment. The rest of today's video is going to be recorded in time-lapse video, so we can compress a lot of work here in a very short period of time. Well, let's go ahead and get started, and let's talk about the very first stone. As you can see, I laid down our first stone, and our first stone is going to a place that's kind of a natural walking feelings. And this is normally what I do. I normally set them down, and as I start putting them in the path, as we start doing the path along here, I will kind of step it off, but I will pre-lay down all of the stones and walk on all of them before I actually start cutting. What I'm going to use for tools is just a matter of having a shovel, having a wheelbarrow, and that's to keep the yard clean so we don't have a lot of dirt going all over into the nice grass that's already manicured. And we'll just put all of our grass pieces of sod that we're going to be pulling out of here, we're going to be putting inside the wheelbarrow. And then once we cut out, as we define around the outside of the rock, and we pull out the side, we're going to go even deeper. We're going to go deep enough to put some 3/4 gravel inside there, and then we'll put some sand on top of that. And I'll explain why in just a minute, why you should do this instead of just sitting it right down inside the hole. Now, to begin with, I am going to cut the sod out, and I'm going to use the stone itself as a template and go about an inch and a half around the edge of the stone. You're probably wondering, well, why don't you make it exactly the same size as the stone so you don't have a gap on the outside that's going to show soil? Well, the reason I do it like this is because if you do it exactly the amount of the size, if I were to cut here all the way around right on the size, then what's going to happen, if I have to do some fill, some leveling later on, I won't be able to get underneath it very well. And what'll happen if you go just like this right here around the edge, when you backfill inside with your soil or your sand inside there, you can get a nice tight fit. And then it takes no time at all for your grass to actually creep up and be right up against your stone later on. In a month or two, you won't even notice that there was any type of a gap. So let's go ahead and get this done. And once I have my outline, I'll go ahead, and I always recommend just taking it and flipping it. Don't lift the whole stone over, setting it over to the side. That way, the next time, it's much easier to flip in than try to lift the whole stone, especially these stones are really heavy. And they can be even much more heavy than the ones we have here if you have larger stones. Very easy just to flip it right back into the spot where you're pulling up your side. Now, one more really good tip. Don't throw away this sod. This sod can be reused because it is sod. And if you have some places in your yard that need to be corrected, need to be fixed, you can take this and you can use it for your repair. Or what you can do is, if you have a friend or a neighbor who has just started their landscaping, like maybe right after the building of their house, they can use this, because this one piece about this size right here, what it will do, it will sod about a 10 square meter area. And you're wondering, how can this be 10 square meters? How can you do this? But the way they do it over here in the Philippines, unlike the way they do it in North America, where they roll out an entire carpet of sod and do your entire yard in one afternoon and it's 100% complete. Here they take little postage sized pieces of existing sod like this and they space it about, oh, I don't know, maybe 6 inches apart from each other. So if you take this and you make maybe about 200 pieces, you can actually do about a 10 square meter section, maybe a little less, maybe a little more, depending on how far you space them apart. So big tip of the day, don't throw away your sod. Make sure that you can reuse this. Once I've dug out a pretty good amount, maybe, I don't know, about 1.5 inches underneath normal ground level that I would expect, I go ahead and fit the stone. And this is just before we actually do some more work. So we actually have, and it'll kind of give you an idea as well, where you have too much soil taken out and where you have not quite enough soil taken out. And I can see that this is higher than this area here because the thickness of the stone is a little bit thicker there than on this end right here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to start by putting some of the soil back on this area, because remember, I want about 1 inch, maybe between 1 inch and 1.5 inches before I start putting down some rock and some sand. And I'll tell you about that again in just a moment. So let me go ahead and add some soil back right here. Now the weight of the stone after a while is just going to compress all this, plus people walking on it. But we just want to get it sort of level now. Now the next thing I'm going to do, well, I was actually going to drop off that sod. I'm going to give it to my neighbor next door, keep adding to his yard. But what I'm going to do is get some rock. I have some rock saved up. We'll put about an inch deep of the 3/4 inch rock aggregate. And we'll put that as our base. Now I'm going to explain that right now why we're doing that. Is because if we were to take this stone, even if we brought it up to the exact level without taking as much of the dirt underneath, what will happen is this will be sitting on soil. And as you get water and everything, what will happen is this will become muddy, very muddy underneath. And then this, because of the weight, will start sloshing back and forth inside there, and you will never get it really stable inside the ground. So the purpose of putting the rock underneath the bottom of the stone, the purpose of the rock is for drainage. It gives drainage, it gives the ample time for the water that goes up underneath to go down into the soil, to seep normally down like it does when it rains and it goes through the grass. So that's what we're going to do next, so that we can have some proper drainage underneath. And then after we do that, what we're going to do, we're going to put some sand on top of the rock, because when we set this on top of the rock, rock on rock is still not going to be stable, but the sand is used as a leveler. It's a leveling tool. We'll put it in, we'll spread it around, and it's easy to manage it and get a very nice tight fit. So that's the two secrets that I was talking about earlier. Well, let me go ahead and go get some rock, get rid of this side, get some rock, and we'll be right back. Now when placing your stone in the ground, you want to get it as close to the level of the bottom of the grass as possible, not too far down, because what this will do, this will kind of swamp with water, so you don't want it filling with water. But you don't want to go too high on any piece on here, because remember, this isn't exactly flat. This is natural stone. There'll be some spots higher than the other. And you don't want your lawnmower, if you cut at a very low level, you don't want your lawnmower hitting the stone. So try to get it as close all the way around, and you can do that with the sand for the leveling. Get it as close as much to the very bottom of the grass level without going down below the base of the grass level. Then the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and fill this in with some spare dirt, and then we'll move on to the next stone. Okay, let's go ahead and take a look at the work that was finished today. And I couldn't have got this done all by myself today. My gardener really helped out, and Papone helped with a little bit of moral support out here. So all the stones got put down. There were actually 17. I had 15 that were delivered, and I had 2 that they gave away as a bonus. And that's those 2 right there. This works good. We can go onto this pad over here. We can go over here to that pad going into the swimming pool. So anyway, right now you can see just the soil around it. It won't take any time for the grass over here to grow up inside here. And this task is done. It's a little bit of a mess right now. It'll look better as time goes on. But what we're going to do, we're going to do a quick drone video so you can see it from up above, because sometimes from up above you get a much better perspective of what it looks like. Let's go ahead and take a look at that. Well, there you have it. This is our task for today. This is our project for the day just before the weekend comes up. Who knows what kind of projects we have for the weekend. I do know I have some product reviews that I need to do as well. Well, I know that Nessa's over inside the swimming pool, and this is not from the swimming pool. This is sweat from doing the work. Sometimes those really neat things that you accomplish cause you to do a little bit of blood, sweat, and tears. Well, luckily I didn't have any blood and I didn't have any tears today, but I did have a lot of sweat going on. Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. And if you did, please give me a thumbs up, please share. And if you have not subscribed, just click on that little My PI Dream heart. in the bottom right hand side of your screen. And if you ring that bell, you'll be notified the next time I upload a new video. So from right here in the backyard of Villa Feliz in the Philippines, you have a wonderful and blessed day. If you enjoyed today's episode and you would like to see more just like these, just click on one of the helpful links over to your right and you might be able to pick up on some good information on DIY projects, how to, or if you are interested in moving to the Philippines and building, you'll find answers there as well.